Hi, IndyCar fans. It's Martha, and I want to welcome you to episode 6 of Cruising 41. I'm going to be debriefing the IndyCar race that took place over the weekend at Barber Motorsports. And, well, what can I say? Hello, Palou. Um, Alex Palou was totally in command. Another masterclass, a dominant performance, a dominant display. Um, he was the favorite coming into the race. He won last year, and he also have won a couple of other times, but he dominated the weekend. Just to put it plainly. So we're gonna just unfold how everything happened. But before we go into the actual details of the race, we saw a very nasty crash that took place during practice 2. Scott McLaughlin hit the barrier and then went under the fence. Thankfully, he came out okay, and he is okay, and they were able to rebuild or put together the car and fix it. But it was a very nasty incident, and glad that he was okay. Then later that day, we had quali, and just to ground everybody on the format for qualifying in IndyCar is we have two groups. The top 6 of each group, they advance to the Fast 12, and the top 6 on that group, they go to the Fast 6. So 2026 has given us 3 different pole sitters for the 3 races that we've had up until that time. And when we finally had the Fast 6, the only one who was in that group of the Fast 6 that could be second time pole sitter was David Malukas. But probability, given that there was like 6 drivers altogether and only one that could repeat pole, it just, you can do the math, right? So anyway, the pole sitter was at the end Alex Palou, and this was his first pole position in 2026. It's hard to believe that this is just the first one, given how dominant he was in 2025. And but yeah, so now we have 4 different pole sitters for the 4 races that we had so far um, in the season. So before the race, there was a lot of talk and a lot of noise about what tire was going to be the ideal or preferred tire for this race. There were some that were very adamant, saying that the red was the right tire, or the right tire for the race, and that was the one that's going to be the competitive one. But there were others that were thinking differently, and that they were thinking that the primary black was the one to go for the race. So the top 3, so it was fascinating, because at the start of the race, when we had the designation of what drivers had what tires, you could see a mixed bag of those who prefer the primary over those who prefer the red, and vice versa. Notably, the top 3 went on the primary strategy. And actually, in hindsight now, that was a strategy to be in or on, because the red didn't quite capitalize and didn't quite give that competitive advantage. So Alex Palou, well, before I start just talking a little bit more about Alex Palou, this race was a green race from beginning to end. We didn't have any cautions, we didn't have any issues, thankfully. So it was a go through, all the laps kind of race, and without any interruptions. Alex Palou, like I said, he was dominant. He was in command. He was, at the front, leading the race. And even though there was like Malukas for a little bit behind him, and then Graham Rahal behind him, you could see that he was in total control. That said, towards like the end of the race, you could see Christian Lundgaard getting super competitive, getting super racy, and it started to look as that maybe Christian Lundgaard could potentially challenge Alex Palou for the win. Sadly for Christian, during his last pit stop, there was an issue and he took a very long time in the pits. So he didn't have at the end enough time to catch Alex Palou, because he came out and he came into traffic, so he had to deal with traffic. Graham Rahal, he had an outstanding race. He was there with the top group for the entire race. When there were like 10 laps to go, Lundgaard was closing, um, you know, quite competitively on Rahal. And then, right after Lundgaard, it was Malukas also kind of like joining this battle. So Rahal and Lundgaard, with 3 laps to go, they were like, right there in a battle. And then ultimately, Lundgaard was able to take second from Graham Rahal. And then with 2 to go, then we have Malukas like really, really close to Graham towards those 2 laps at the end. But Rahal was able to really hang on, and he finally got the last podium position. So he finished P3 at the race at Barber, and it is it is it is quite an accomplishment for Graham, because this Barber podium broke a 41 race drought. This was his first podium since August of 2023. And so, yeah, that podium was at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. And so, wow, since 2023, he had not had a podium. So, way to go, Graham. He had a really good race, and also congratulations to RLL for the race. So even with the win, Kyle Kirkwood still holds, the top of the championship at the moment. He is, the leader only by 2 points from Palou. So we will see what the next races will give us. But he's still there, and as the championship leader at the moment. Now let's talk a little bit about Pato. I have my Pato hat today. Pato started P12 and he finished P17. He was one who chose to start, or his team chose to start him on the sticker red strategy, and which was the one that wasn't really the strategy that was the winning strategy. But he was struggling. He was really. I was with his onboard. I was looking at his onboard, and even before it was like halfway through the race, he had already used half of his push to pass, and we were not even halfway through the race. So he really looked like he was struggling. He, at some point of time, started talking about he was having these vibrations, that he wasn't understanding what it was. And so he was clearly struggling. He was not able to make ground. At one point of time, he was behind Nolan Siegel for a little while, and he wasn't able to get close to him, to being able to pass. And so very puzzling. I think he gave an interview, or perhaps I saw it on one of his socials, but he didn't understand why the car wasn't giving him the performance or the competitive edge he needed, and why was it not behaving the way he wanted it to behave. So it was, I'd said it was an unexpected P17. He didn't have a great quality, but Palou is always one that gives you your, 150%. So I was certain that he was going to start going through the field like Lundgaard did in the other era McLaren. But for some reason, his car was not delivering that kind of performance. So um, unfortunate, but we'll have to see, hopefully they get the answers they need and they can get the right, performance out of his car. So then we go to Long Beach, not for another few weeks. It's, I think, April 19th when we go to Long Beach. That is a 1.968 mile street circuit. So we go back to street circuit. Well, you know what that means. Street circuit is usually the forte for Kyle Kirkwood. So he probably is going to be the favorite going in. And since this championship battle is so close between him and Palou, so that could give Kyle a little bit of an edge in the championship. Um, Scott Dixon is strong in street circus too. So he, Scott Dixon, unfortunately, has not had a great result thus far in 2026. So definitely he will be hungry for a great result at Long Beach. So I guess that's it. That's just the recap and the debriefing from the race. And we are, like I said, we're not going to have a race in a few weeks, but as soon as we get past April 19th, I will be back and, talking to you about how everything went at Long Beach. In the meantime, if you like this video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and give me any comments that you may have here. Leave me your comments on YouTube, or also you can reach out to me on my social, and I will put the information right here for you to see it. So thank you for listening, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Bye now.